As we proceed to introductions, I am delighted and pleased to introduce our newest board member, Rick Morales.
Morning.
Great guy, great businessman, will be a terrific member, I'm sure. And the fact that you're a home builder is particularly important right now. So that you'll add a great perspective, and we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you, John. Looking forward to it.
Is there anyone else that we need to introduce?
I think we are good otherwise. Thank you.
Okay, could we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Todd Skinner, can you give us a safety briefing, please?
Thank you, Chair Baker, members of the board. I'm Todd Skinner, your Director of Substation Protection and Controls. My team provides 24/7 care of JEA's electric substations through maintenance, testing, construction, responding to trouble and outages. Before we get to our safety moment, let's take a minute to recall that in the event of an emergency, make sure to call 911 and alert others to the situation. If the emergency requires an evacuation, use the stairwell, not the elevators. And for those in the T19 meeting area, the designated assembly location will be the First Baptist Church parking lot located at the corner of Ashley and Main. Make sure to pair up with your safety partner, the person to your right, and be cognizant of any potential trip hazards on your way out. Please remember to keep your cell phones on silent and laptops on mute when not actively speaking during today's board meeting. This month's safety moment is Halloween safety reminders. I'll be traveling the neighborhood with my two little girls. They've already tried their costumes on to make sure they're the right size, not too long, not too bulky, to prevent trips and falls. Have the kids carry glow sticks, flashlights, or reflective costumes so others can see them. So they can see others, choose face paint or makeup instead of full face mask. It's best to have a responsible adult accompany children under 12, so my wife will be coming with us. Instruct children to travel only in familiar, well-lit areas and stay together with their friends. Walk facing traffic and avoid lines. If you're not trick-or-treating, popular hours are between 5:30 and 9:30, so if you're in residential areas, please slow down and pay attention. Children can be a little unpredictable with the excitement of Halloween. Remember to put your electronic devices down so you can concentrate on your surroundings and continue to practice COVID safety precautions. And last but not least, if you're handing out candy over on the right-hand side of the slide, we've got America's favorite Halloween candy. So you've got a shopping list, and that's our safety moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. It's great. Michael, do you have any comments?
No, sir, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. We're to the comments from the public. Landon, can you introduce us?
Absolutely. My name is Landon Todd, and for those that are new to the WebEx technology, let me give you a brief overview of the controls for public comment. If you're joining us via the desktop interface or a smart device, such as a smartphone or tablet, you may move around your screen and will see a series of buttons at the bottom. Now, the very first one that you may notice looks like an icon of a microphone. If it is red, it means you are muted and will be on mute for the majority of this meeting unless recognized to speak. Now, if you are recognized to speak or asked to provide comment, you will click on that button and it will turn green. This will mean that you're unmuted and people can hear you. Now, I do ask that you use this option to mute your line when you are not speaking. This will allow us to reduce the amount of background noise and have the most productive meeting possible. Now, located on the right side, you will see or find an icon that looks like a person labeled participant. Now, this option will allow you to see a long list of individuals who have joined today's meeting. Now, at the top of this list, your name will be visible, And to the right, you will notice a gray icon that looks like a hand. Now, if you click it, it will turn blue, letting me know that you would like to be recognized for public comment. Now, for those that have called in directly, there are 2 additional ways that you can notify me that you'd like to provide comment. Now, the first one is by pressing *3 on your phone, which will raise your hand, and then you may press *6 to unmute your line. Now, if you do unmute your line this way, please state your name so that everyone may hear who is speaking before you proceed. Now, we have also enabled the chat option as well in today's meeting. This is located to the right of the participants pane. If you click that and you're unable to provide your comments via audio, you may type your comments there, and then I will go ahead and announce your comments that have been typed in via written form. Now, if you have any questions or would like to reach out to me directly, I am the moderator of today's meeting and have the capability to mute everyone's line, but will only do so if I need to reduce background noise. Now, I will go ahead and look into the first option through the raised hands feature. I do see a raised hand from today's participants. I'd like to go ahead and recognize Nate Day for public comments. And if we can get to go ahead and have the Nate, you can go ahead and unmute your line, and T19 if you would like to go ahead and start the clock.
No, I appreciate it. I'll be quick. Nate Day. I am the Chair of Governmental Affairs for the Northeast Florida Builders Association. I've been on a few of these, and I just told Kurt I'd make sure someone got on here and at least said something nice, since last time it was all complaining. But I did want to just take a few seconds and thank Kurt and Julie and the whole team for working with us, and Jay too, spent time reaching out and really trying to make sure that the impact fee, or sorry, the growth capacity fee did get sort of hashed out with us. It's not everything we wanted, but we do feel like the staff and JEA worked hard with us, heard our concerns. I hope going forward, it seems like there's a willingness to kind of collaborate on a number of items. So I want to make sure I came on and said thank you and make sure the board knew that we really do appreciate the work that staff and everyone has put into this, and you know, hope that we continue to work together. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Nate. That's very thoughtful of you to do that. And I know staff really did want to work with you all, and we appreciate the give and take, and we're all in this together. So thank you so much. Are there others, Landon?
I do not see any other raised hands for the participants of the WebEx nor via the chat. So I'll go ahead and hand it back over to y'all.
Okay. Jay, can you give us a CEO report, please?
Sure. I will. First of all, I want to say thank you to Todd Skinner. I think that Halloween safety might not normally be the topic of a safety moment for a utility like JEA, but it's a sign of how we are working on safety both at and away from work and at home and everywhere that we are. So I appreciate that was our topic this time. And I want to thank the board. Thank you all for helping the 2,000 employees do what we do every day. We recognized Rick Morales a little bit earlier, but welcome to the board. Rick's the president and CEO of Morales Construction and has over 35 years of experience in lots of areas, including construction and financial management, but also has served on a lot of different boards and has a lot of experience serving in the community. And so we're excited to have you on the board, helping to give back to the community. This is a great board, a great team, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all to make JEA the best utility in the nation. Part of that is building this unbeatable team that we talk about, and we have had several additions to leadership team and extended leadership team over the last little while. I've been updating you each month, so it sounds like we've already announced this in some ways, but Laura Shepis is joining us today. This is her first meeting here. Laura is our Chief External Affairs Officer, and she completes the leadership team now and has more than 15 years of experience in government affairs, communications, and is going to lead and oversee the government affairs, media relations, communications, environmental operations, and compliance groups within JEA. And glad to have her a part of the team. We've also been filling positions in the extended leadership team. Some of you met Brad Kroll at the Finance and Audit Committee a couple of weeks ago. He is our new Chief Information Officer and is going to oversee all of the technology infrastructure and strategic leadership associated with that, and will report to Ted Phillips, who is our no longer new Chief Financial Officer. I also like to thank and recognize Stephen Datz, who served for a while in our interim CIO role, and congratulate him on his new role as Vice President of Technical Services. He's been with JEA for over 27 years, and I think it's going to bring stability to that organization and help support us as we move forward. You've heard from Jordan Pope a few times recently. I'm excited to announce that he has been named Vice President of Corporate Strategy, and he's been here since 2006 with a small brief time at CSX, but has been involved in capital budgeting, government relations, economic development over the years. And he will report to Laura Dutton, our Chief Strategy Officer. And then finally, Paul Mitchell, who is currently with Enterprise Florida, will come online with us on November 8th as our Vice President of Economic Development. So the effort that we've had to fill the leadership team, the extended leadership team, is nearing completion, and that will allow us to springboard. So I want to welcome and congratulate Laura, Brad, Stephen, Jordan, and Paul. That's a lot of folks this time. I talked a little bit about their backgrounds, but the thing that makes us an unbeatable team in this leadership team is the leadership that they bring, the chemistry that they bring to the team, and the focus that they're going to have to work with the rest of the leadership team, the extended leadership team, and all of the 2,000 employees as they lead with humility, focused on living out our values: safety, respect, and integrity. So that's the introduction of some of the teams, but I'm also excited and want to talk about a couple of honors that we've had in the last month or so. On October 19th, Renetta Marshall, who is our new Chief Operating Officer, was honored with one of the industry's highest honors at as a Water Environment Federation Fellow. We call it a Lifetime Achievement Award, which is not exactly what it is, but that's the best way to summarize it. And I'm proud that she's part of this team and working with us every day. Ricky Erickson is Vice President of Electric Systems, and he was named to the Southeastern Reliability Council Board of Directors. He represents the municipal sector in that group, which oversees a nonprofit that oversees reliability in the Southeast in the electric grid. And so it's quite an honor for him and for us to be represented on that board. And then Wayne Young, who's Vice President of Environmental Services, was appointed to the Water Reuse Association Board of Directors. That's a national trade association that supports and represents more than 200 million utility customers that promote safe, sustainable water supplies, acceptance of and support of recycled water, and general advocacy in that area. And I share these honors with you to celebrate Ray and Ricky and Wayne. But there's other people that are serving on boards and have won awards over the last little while. And so it's a little bit less about the individual achievements, and it's more about our role in the larger community. We talk about building community, and that normally we think of that as Northeast Florida, but JEA is this important industry leader, and these folks are representing us in larger areas to build community. We turned the light on a few months ago, and when we turned the light on the building, we said JEA is back. This is an even better sign that JEA is back, is that the people that represent you each day are involved with the community more broadly. We also were awarded, and I think right this week, we are going to be awarded an APPA Communications Award, the American Public Power Association Excellence in Public Power Communications Award, for a video that our in-house team produced focused on network and commercial underground line workers. And I'd like to congratulate Sheila Presley and David Goldberg and the team that worked on this to implement this. We're going to play the video. It's a couple of minutes long because I think it showcases the work that the communication team does, the work that the line workers are doing. And it is a video that we could do hundreds of because we have teams doing good work like this around the area every single day. If we can skip to the board, that would be great.
Providing power is definitely essential. It's becoming even more evident with everyone working from home. At JEA, the underground department, we are responsible for all of the three-phase commercial underground development jobs, and then we also maintain the downtown network. The crew that I'm in charge of is the network maintenance crew. So the majority of our time is we're going from building to building, and we do this annual testing on it. So throughout downtown, between the submersibles and the dry types, there are about 240 transformers and protectors that we do maintenance on. So that's basically 1 or 2 a day. And then as we come across some, we actually have a program now that we're upgrading the older ones to a newer style, a new technology that's the latest and greatest. And so far in the last year and a half, we've changed out 14 of those. JEA is a great place to work. It's very much team-oriented. The guys get along well, they laugh, they joke with each other, they're serious when they need to be. They're always watching out for each other's back. That's the whole my brother's keeper mentality. And it's very important having a good crew. We definitely serve the citizens. It becomes very evident during the storms, but we do every single day. We're glad that we have a good job here at JEA and that we are providing power throughout all of Jacksonville.
Thank you. That's impressive video and a good team. And I appreciate being able to be a part of this team. The past month, we also had opportunities to celebrate with the community. We had Electric National Drive Week. We joined some other groups the beginning of October at the Museum of Science and History, MOSH, and supported electric vehicles in our community. We are in the middle of our United Way campaign and kicked off the Employee United Way campaign because part of what we do every day is provide these reliable services, but as we build community, it is broader than just the work we do every day. And so we had to kick off in September. And since then, we have hosted several events. There's a fishing tournament that Jody Brooks and Ted Phillips and I were able to spend some time during the weigh-in at. And then we had a golf tournament that Sheila Presley and I were able to spend some time at the golf tournament, and both of those raised money for our community. And I'd like to thank Jackie Scheel and Cindy Edgar, who are leading this year's campaign, as well as many volunteers that are doing this every day. And then looking forward a little bit, I'm excited that on November 10th at 9 o'clock, we'll be honoring JEA's veterans in a hybrid event, and General DeSalvo is going to be our guest speaker for the Veterans Day event. So thank you for doing that to support veterans and the whole team. Later today in the meeting, we're going to hear an update from the Finance and Audit Committee where we reviewed in detail the implementation of the water and wastewater capacity fees. I appreciate that Nate Day spoke and shared that the positive work that we did over the last couple of months to try to understand the needs of that community, and we'll keep on on doing that. I think it is important to note and to remind you that the capacity fees are based on current costs. This isn't a catch up. It's not looking backwards. While it has been a while since we've implemented them, this is looking forward to be able to support the community and build capacity as we move forward. We'll also spend today a deep dive in the into Plant Vogel that Joe and Jody are going to get into. And we'll continue to give updates on Plant Vogel on a regular basis. But we know that long-term it will help our portfolio for energy, but it also has financial impact every time it is delayed. And so we'll give you a little bit of a grounding of where we are now and what the history has been. And in our fuel mix, that's the other big topic for today, is the pricing policy that Julie Crawford will review a little bit, where we're going to transition to adjusting our fuel on a monthly basis. And the key here is that JEA customers will pay what we pay. It's a pass-through cost, and it'll be more transparent with both increases and decreases as we move forward. That was a lot to cover today. But it's not just words when we say that we're improving lives and building community. It is the work that we do every day. Now, some of you may not remember this as vividly as I do, but tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary from when you all got to meet for the very first time in person. Because you came on board and met in this hybrid world, and a year ago tomorrow is when you held the interviews for the position that I have the honor to sit in. And so I appreciate remembering that. In the interview, we talked about the team of 2,000 employees and what they had been through over the past couple of years. And I said then, just based on an outsider's view, that they are really good at what they do. And now I've been here going on a year, and they are really good. They're really, really good at what they do. It's an honor for me to be able to be here. At the end of the interview, I said something like, and I was stressed out because it was an interview, so it might not have been as eloquent as it could have been, but I said something like that if I had planned out my career in order to get to this seat, that I would have done exactly the same thing in a year end. I wouldn't change anything either. The team that we have built, the team that I get to work with is fantastic. The team that of 2,000 people supports this community, and I look forward to many years to come. So thank you for the opportunity to be here and being willing to come in person a year ago to talk to me. With that, I'll answer any questions, but we're in good shape.
Right. Questions? Well, thank you. We're glad you're here. I thought the orange and blue in the video with the JEA blue on the orange vest looked particularly good this week. That was a very nice touch.
Our goal is to make you happy, Chair.
And of course, we welcome the new members of the leadership team and congratulate those that have been honored to serve the industry. That's neat, and thanks for pointing that out. Next on our agenda is our consent agenda. We have 3 things: the board meeting minutes from September 17th, the fiscal 21 budget transfers, and the fiscal 22 delegated authority for transfers. These are, I think, in pages 26 through 34, 35 of your book, which you all seen. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion or questions about any of these? Okay, if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimously passed. We'll move to the board and committee reports with Ms. Lanahan, Finance and Audit.
Thank you very much. The Finance and Audit Committee met on October 15th. As normal, the committee materials are in the back of your package. The committee had a quorum for the meeting, and both General DeSalvo and Rick Morales joined us. So thank you for your interest in our committee. The board meeting on September 17th, this body asked that the Finance and Audit Committee review specifically the plant capacity fees, implementation thereof, and the fuel charge. We did that. It's been determined that we can address both of those items in your pricing policy, which we'll discuss in a bit in the business excellence section of our agenda. So I'm not going to dive into that since we will dive into that later. We met with Ernst & Young and reviewed our annual audit. Audit plan, believe it or not, it's time to do that again. So they're fast at work. They were very complimentary of the JEA staff and the processes that we have in place to assist them. We're also going to find a way to save a little bit of money this year by leaning on our internal audit team to help them out with some things as well. So that was a good thing. We met in executive session with both ENY and JEA's internal audit director. We did discuss the 22 internal audit plan, and we took action on that along with the committee minutes. So I would ask, our next meeting, by the way, is February 11th of next year, if anybody wants to join us. And I would ask for a motion to approve the report and actions taken.
And we have a motion.
Move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Well done. Good summary. Next is the monthly performance update. Burdell Knowles. That's on page 8 of your book.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good
I'm
morning.
Burdell Knowles, JEA Government Relations Specialist, 20-year JEA employee, representing the JEA Government Affairs team. Our team is charged with managing public policy issues and the relationships with public policy officials in the interest of JEA and the community it serves. It is my honor now to present this month's performance metrics on behalf of our team. Regarding safety, first and foremost, we ended the fiscal year with a historically low reportable incident rate of 0.95. This was well below the industry average and exceeded our corporate goal, which was 1.4. For customer satisfaction, we finished the fiscal year in the third quartile for residential customer satisfaction and in the fourth quartile for businesses, both well below our fiscal year 21 goals. The most recent residential customer satisfaction survey scores were the highest they have been in the last decade. We do note that there's an increased sensitivity to energy costs, including the cost of electric utility service. This is especially the case for business customers. These concerns may be reflected in the upcoming survey results. The next metric is sanitary sewer overflows that impact waters of the U.S. Year to date, there have been 35 occurrences. This equal to 0.66 occurrences per 100 miles of pipe. There were 3 sanitary sewer events in the month of September. 2 were because of pipe failures, and 1 was due to a grease blockage. Regarding nitrogen to the river, we exceeded our corporate goal of 450 tons this year, finishing at 372 tons. For environmental compliance, permit exceedances, we finished out the year with only 1 permit exceedance, well below our goal of having less than 4. For electric energy sales, we finished slightly higher than targeted, with 12,216 megawatt hours being sold versus a target of 12,200 megawatt hours. Water and wastewater sales were adversely impacted this year by an abnormally wet summer. We received approximately 25% more rainfall this year than we do in a normal year. The extra rainfall resulted in less irrigation use, driving potable water sales down 1.7%. Overall, revenue is up $28 million when compared to the previous year. Fuel expenses were approximately 19% above the fiscal year 21 target, coming in at $34.82 per megawatt hour versus a goal of $29.30 per megawatt hour. Capital expenses finished at $355 million, well below the target of $499 million. Electric, water, and wastewater costs were $51 million below the fiscal year 21 target, coming in at $381 million versus $432 million. JEA ended fiscal year 21 with total outstanding debt of $3 billion, just missing the target of $2.95 billion. We were unable to complete the St. John's River Power Park $102 million early debt retirement due to delays in the plant's decommissioning. However, this payment will be made during fiscal year 2022. Regarding electrical reliability, JEA's distribution system reliability, as measured by both the safety and SAIDI indices, was better than our fiscal year goals for reliability and better than for both fiscal 19 and fiscal year 20. JEA had a very good year for grid water pressure in fiscal year 21. Customers experience, on average, around 2.1 minutes per month of water pressure below 30 pounds per square inch. This exceeded our goal of it being 3 minutes. Pay performance is currently projected to be 3.3% of base salaries. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the monthly performance update. We are happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Any questions of Burdell?
Yeah, if I could, Chair Baker. Burdell, thanks for a great brief on the reliability for the water unplanned outages. Does this, so far our goal, which was 6.750, does that account for all the work going on for replacing pipes and stuff like that, or not? Do you know?
Mr. Chairman, I do not know, but I'm sure one of my colleagues who's listening in would be happy to answer that.
Yes. I just bring that up because if you have the goals, but if they're not adjusted for known, I'm just where I live, there's a lot of, water line replacement, et cetera, but hopefully we're not doing the foot shot by saying we're missing a goal when in fact we knew, with planned construction.
These are unplanned outages,
Okay.
that are leaks that are occurring. And if Hai is on, he can probably answer it with a little bit more detail.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, he's on.
This is Haibu on the line. Jay's absolutely right. So the numbers are for unplanned outages, but they do not include the planned outages that are part of construction.
So part of the reason that we start to track some of this is that we want to not have these, and so it helps us to be ahead of maintenance type activities, and we'll know what kind of problems we would have, and this is more than we would want. But we'll continue to do our maintenance work and stay on top of it, raise on top of it.
Well, I was going to applaud the team for setting aggressive goals. One of the criticisms we had from city council is that we were all green in these at year end. And sometimes, that would indicate that we had a layup. And this obviously was not a layup year. And you can't control weather, but I appreciate the team setting aggressive goals.
Thank you.
Do have one question. I see on the list of minimum water pressure of 30 PSI. We've been experiencing in a bunch of parts of town excessive water pressure. We've had some issues with fixtures failing, and we're finding that the water pressure is in excess of 80 PSI in San Marco and Ortega and Avondale. So I don't know if that's something to, I see we're monitoring low pressure, but what about high pressure? My understanding, it's not supposed to go that high.
So we can take a look at that. I'm not aware of the details, but we'll find out and get.
Sure, it's just something that,
It's
when
something,
I saw this, it reminded me, I'd gotten a few calls about that, so.
absolutely. We'll check into that.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Burdell. Appreciate that. A good report. And it leads right into the unbeatable team and the pay for performance results. Pat Malis?
Good morning, Chair Baker, and members of the board. The performance results you just heard about, they've been audited and confirmed for the fiscal year 21 pay for performance program for the corporate metrics of recordable injury rate, residential and commercial customer satisfaction as measured by J.D. Powers, and the electric, water, and wastewater cost metrics. Based on the performance described above, the actual payout to employees is $5.5 million or 3.32% of base salaries as of September 30th, 2021. We ask the board's approval to pay out the fiscal year 21 pay for performance program.
Okay, as she says, the pay for performance graded out to 3.32% of base salaries. And that's, just Rick, for info, that's every employee except Jay
That's what I understand.
is on
Yes, sir.
that program. And the total payout is 5.5 million. Can we get a motion to approve that?
With a motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair, just real quickly, I want to remind the board that this was budgeted as required by the charter of the council, and is not a bonus. It is a part of the pay as a whole. And we had changed the way we did that over the last couple of years, and it is in full compliance with that.
I think it is a neat program to have all your employees pulling on these diverse set of goals. It's not excessive at all, but it's not unmeaningful too. And I think it really helps get everybody focused. And I think it's a wonderful idea.
And a reminder that they did not receive pay for performance last year. So it's
Right.
nice to be able to
Okay. I didn't
voting
realize
on this. There was an administrative issue. Wasn't voted on.
that. Oh, my God.
Okay, under customer loyalty,
Mr. Chair, you have to vote.
oh, I'm sorry.
Call the motion for vote.
Hmm?
Call-
Didn't vote.
We haven't voted.
Oh, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, right. I thought we was gonna say
Me too.
$5.5 million.
Yeah. Might not have been worth it.
Can we go to the elimination of non-beneficial surface water discharges? Renetta?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair Baker, members of the board. I'm Renetta Marshall, Chief Operating Officer for JEA. And joining me today to give this presentation is Rob Zamatero. Rob is our Director of Water Wastewater Planning and Development. We will be giving an update of the actions taken by JEA in response to Senate Bill 64, which is also known as the Water Reuse Bill. And specifically, we're going to be presenting the preliminary plan that has been developed for the purpose of eliminating non-beneficial surface water discharges. So here on this slide is the order of our presentation. First, we're going to give a brief background of the legislation and an overview of the timeline of the critical milestones. We're also going to provide an overview of JEA's water reclamation system. That is the crux of the improvements that are going to be presented later on. And this is going to include both our existing as well as our proposed facilities. We're going to introduce management options that are going to be taken under consideration to implement this plan. And then Rob is going to then take a deeper dive into the specifics of the plan. And we're also going to go over the suite of uncertainties that will have a bearing on both the plan implementation as well as the costs. And then finally, at the end of this presentation, we're probably going to talk about probably the most important part, and that's the next steps and the things that we're going to be undertaking over the next 10 plus years. So this slide gives an overview of the timeline and the critical milestones. Now, you'll note that while SB 64 was signed by the governor in June of this year, the board may recall that before that time that JEA had been very engaged in monitoring the various draft bills and proposing language that would exceed or that would extend the implementation date. We also provided different updates to the board. As you can also see, on November 1st, or 4 months after the governor signed the bill, we are required to submit a plan to the Department of Environmental Protection on how we intend to meet the requirements. DEP will then have 10 months to complete their review by August 1st of 2022. And we anticipate that after we submit the plan later this week, we will then going to receive some interim feedback from DEP, and we're going to work with them to finalize the plan by the August deadline. And then finally, the legislation contemplates that the plan will be implemented by January 1st of 2032. That's a tall order. Given the magnitude of the capital improvements that JEA must undertake, coupled with uncertainties such as supply chain delivery, resource competition, as well as rules and regulations that have not yet been finalized when it comes to some of the management options that we are going to be looking at, such as potable reuse, full implementation by the 2032 date is a monumental task, to say the least. So here, this slide gives an overview of our water reclamation facilities. This includes both our current as well as our future facilities. Right now, JEA has 11 existing facilities, and they're shown in those red dots there on the graphic. Now, these range in average daily amounts that we treat from 100,000 gallons per day at the Ponce de Leon facility at the southern end of our service area, all the way to about 26 million gallons per day, and that's at our Buckman facility, which is more centrally located. We're also going to be building 3 additional facilities, and these were previously presented in our integrated water resources plan. Those are shown in the blue dots, Cecil West to the west of our service area, the Northwest facility in the northwest, and then Greenland, which is currently underway, and that's on the southeast of our area. Please note that when you take all of these in total, this averages about a little bit over 80 million gallons a day of treated flow. And of this amount, 25% is beneficially reused, not only for irrigation as shown there, but also at our water reclamation facilities. And we use that for processed water, on-site irrigation, and other uses. So these are the management options, and the board may have seen these before that are going to be considered in this plan. They include our traditional reclaimed water, which the previous slide shows that we have already undertaken. This has the benefit of offsetting demands on our groundwater sources. Purified water, also known as potable reuse. We completed a pilot study in 2019, and recently the board approved a land purchase for a demonstration facility, 1 million gallons per day. Deep well injection. Now, this is a disposal option for the excess treated water, as well as the concentrate from the treatment processes. Also noteworthy is that none of these wells or no deep wells have as of yet been permitted in Northeast Florida, so that we're going to have to do test wells. This is one of the uncertainties that's inherent in this plan. Finally, wetland hydration. Now, we did a desktop analysis, and while it didn't indicate any significant amounts of wetlands available, it is an option that we want to keep in our portfolio of solutions as we finalize this plan. So now Rob and his team, who have been working very diligently over the last 4 months in producing this preliminary plan, he's going to take a deeper dive into the specifics.
Thank you, Renetta. What we have on this slide is the utilization of the options that were just previously discussed. Traditional reclaimed water. And we currently use this program. It's started around JEA around 207. And we currently use about 20 MGD. Through natural growth and development, that reclaimed water system will grow to about 30 MGD. So we're going to continue on with that program as planned, and we'll continue along with our capital improvement program. So there's not a significant change there. Purified water will be one of the new methods or new management options in our portfolio. We started the purified water program here at JEA in 2016. The difference is, or where we're slightly changing direction, is that we had about 20 MGD and a 20 to 30-year capital improvement plan. That is being condensed to 10 years. So we are seeing a significant acceleration of the purified water program. So even though we're not changing direction with purified water, and we're kind of geared up to do this, as Renetta discussed with the purified water demonstration facility, the overall capital improvements are being significantly accelerated. The deep well injection does pose a significant deviation from our existing plan. We originally only had them in very sporadic locations to deal with concentrate, where now we're actually having to utilize them to get rid of most of any effluent that was not being utilized. So this is where you see a significant capital expenditure and a deviation from previous plans presented to the board. The capital investment to implement all the options that you see on the screen are approximately 1.9 billion. So it is a significant investment over the next decade. We added this slide to discuss the uncertainties. I think the uncertainties in this plan are greater than typical. So we did want to take a moment to discuss and go through those. Renetta had mentioned the deep well injection. Most of the deep wells in the state of Florida are Orlando or south. So they are commonly used in Florida and permitted. They're just not commonly done, or not. There's been none done in Northeast Florida. So when we go to permit those, there will be significant time invested in testing and monitoring of those wells prior to the full implementation of deep well injection. The whole program, the 1.9 billion, is a significant amount of capital infrastructure. And we currently are already stretching our engineering, permitting, and construction capacity in North Florida. So as we move to expand our CIP, it's going to require us to bring in talent from out of state or out of region. So that's another thing to be considered, how we get this work completed within the next decade. The timeline on this is very aggressive, which was already mentioned. And it's aggressive because there's a lot of all these uncertainties, permitting, testing, doing things that haven't been done in this region, even though there are common practices elsewhere in the state of Florida and elsewhere in the country. They're new to this area. Rules, regulations required for implementation have not been set yet. I would like to point out the Purified Water Program draft rules were just recently released, and we don't expect those to be finalized till January or March. So we're kind of in the midst of setting up a plan and doing preliminary design on projects that the rules haven't been finalized. So as Renetta indicated, we'll be working with DEP and our local regulatory agencies to develop our plan as the rules get finalized. So the important aspects. Finding additional staff with the 3 future planned facilities and approximately 4 purified facilities, we're adding 6 complete facilities to that 11 existing. So it's about a 60% increase in the number of facilities, which will all have to be staffed. So that will also be. And for all of those reasons, the cost is highly variable. So a lot of unknowns, and things will change, and we will update you accordingly. Next steps, November 1st is the deadline for the plan submittal. So in the next week or so, we will be submitting the plan to FDEP. We will continue with the purified demonstration facility. So that is ongoing and that work is moving forward. We will continue refining the plan with DEP and with the stakeholders as rules and regulations develop and get finalized. And there are a few projects that we've already had that were already kind of in our plan. We're going to move forward with those since time is of the essence. The plans that have a high certainty, we'll begin doing the preliminary planning and preliminary design on. And then probably one of the most important things is over the next year, as we finalize the plan, the cash flows, we will be working with Julie and the financial team to understand, come up with a financial plan to minimize the impact to our ratepayers. August 22nd is the deadline. We're hoping to finalize the plan prior to that, but that would be the deadline for FDEP to finally approve and move forward with the plan. And then FY23 to FY32 would be full implementation of all the projects. So with that, I am available to answer any questions.
Questions of Rob or Renetta?
Do we have any idea, are there any grants or anything like that at the state or national level that might be able to defray some of this, or?
There is some verbiage in the Senate Bill 64 that purified water and beneficial uses will be eligible for priority funding, but there has been no, excuse me, no clear delineation of what that is.
That will be something that we will be discussing as we move along.
Senate Bill 64, is that the new infrastructure bill?
That is the bill to eliminate surface water discharge.
Oh, the state bill.
Yeah, it's a state bill.
But there might be some in the federal bill as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have a team in Tallahassee and DC that kind of keep an eye on this. And there was some information in the paper yesterday about some funding sources. That's at the national level. It's probably a long shot kind of legislation pass. But it is hopeful that our Florida delegation's interested enough to try to bring this up, to try to be sure that we get the funding if it becomes available. So we're going to keep an eye on that. We've got the team watching it and the team of grant writers that we have now keeping an eye on things as opportunities come up.
Rob, of the 1.85 billion, how would that be spread out? Do you think most of that goes to the purified water or to the wells, or?
That I'd have to go back and to verify the exact number. I will comment that the first 4 or 5 years are a lot of planning and design. So you won't see a significant expenditure there. It's the latter part of the decade that we're going to be working on the most. So as far as the distribution, it's a rough estimate. I wouldn't be able to give you that right now.
Okay.
Get back to you.
It's capital expense. That's not the incremental staff. That's not including
Correct.
operating expense.
Yes, that is not operating expense.
It's also tiny asterisk on there that's a 2021 dollars. So that's part of the financial plan that we have to put together, is how to fund this, both operating and capital, as we move forward over the next 10 years. It's a big,
If you fully load operating, it's really big. So in the future, I know that's harder to do because the operating is at the back end of the decade. But if we can try to take a swag at that, I think we need to.
we need to do that for the finance, but we've got to train a lot of operators to do things that there's no rules and regulations for yet. And so that part might come sooner than, typically if something was coming on 10 years, then we could wait a little later. We may have to staff kind of parallel as we get people trained appropriately as we move forward.
On the deep well injection, just so, why is it that there's none in North Florida?
It's, well, one, for the convenience that we do have a river there.
Okay.
So, we really only have, as regarding disposal, two options for us. It's either deep well into a layer of the aquifer that is so deep that it has no environmental impacts, or very high chloride, so almost seawater type quality. So we either go there or go to the river. So just due to the cost to go that deep, it's always been more advantageous to do the river.
Yeah, okay.
So JEA over the past decade or so has invested heavily in nitrogen removal,
right,
and getting that water in a very, I would say, a great condition to go into the river. So that was the path we took. So no need for that expenditure.
Would there have to be additional purification of the water that's injected into the aquifer, into the deep aquifer?
Yeah, it depends on the water quality. So that's part of the testing and the unknowns. Basically, rule of thumb is you have to match the water quality to the receiving body. So whether that's going to a river, going to a potable aquifer, or going to a deep aquifer, when we do a test well, we'll do extensive water sampling, and we'll make sure that whatever effluent goes into that corresponding layer is treated appropriately. So depending on, because there's no wells existing, we have to go out and get that data.
So there's our geology that much different than Orlando?
Yes. Yeah. They do have yes, I'll just, without getting,
How deep are you expecting?
our estimates were 2,000 to 3,000 feet.
Wow, okay.
So it's significantly deeper than our typical wells are 800 feet.
Although it may be spilt milk, but if we could control the suspense to comply, and 2032 is aggressive, what would something more feasible be?
I think there's other beneficial uses. Ray had touched on wetlands out on the western side of the county.
Mhm.
There's also natural recharge areas further out west that take significantly longer to investigate. So we've already reached out to the Water Management District to look for other opportunities other than deep wells. That's kind of like our lowest, what I consider, option. So that's why we kind of preference the preliminary plan with it is still being developed, because we do want to track down those options. Those options take longer than 10 years.
Okay.
So that was one of the constraints we had, is we had to come up with a plan to be executed within a decade, actually 9 years.
But our original plan had this spread out over a 20 to 30 year.
Yes.
We were
Yeah.
headed towards a similar end, but it was over 20 or 30
Right.
years. In the meantime, the quality of the wastewater that is being discharged into the river is better than it ever has been. And we are helping improving the quality of water in Northeast Florida and have been for a number of years. This is in order to be in compliance with the rules, which is not inconsistent with what we're doing. It's just compressed.
Mhm.
And there's reason for us to need to do this. It's the right thing for us to do. The trouble is the compression of that
Right.
time and the dollars it's going to cost to be able to accomplish it. And so we had the ability to pick our own plan. We would have taken longer time. But during the process of the legislation last year, this is longer than what they originally had wanted us to do. So I think and we will continue to work with DEP and legislature and the River Management District and all the different parties to be sure that we respond appropriately.
Okay, to be continued.
Sir.
Thank you very much and congratulations, Franny. You look too young to be getting a lifetime achievement.
Thank you. That's
Oh.
appreciated.
Julie, can we go to the pricing policy revision, please?
Good morning, Chair Baker and Board. As Board Member Lanahan mentioned, we first introduced a monthly fuel charge adjustment at the August board meeting, then discussed at the October Finance and Audit Committee meeting. And while the recommended implementation date has been accelerated due to fuel market trends, we still believe this change will benefit JEA and our customers. Currently, we set the fuel charge annually, as is prescribed in the current pricing policy. This structure is managed through JEA's Fuel Stabilization Fund, which serves to compensate when fuel costs rise higher than expected and allows JEA to reimburse customers when annual fuel costs are lower than expected. The fund was an appropriate tactic when fuel charges are assessed on an annual basis. We are now recommending to instead adjust the charge monthly to better pass on fuel expenses, which would eliminate the need for a fuel stabilization fund. This provides more transparency to the customer and flexibility for JEA. If the monthly fuel rate adjustment is implemented, customers' fuel charge will increase and decrease along with the change in fuel costs each month. These changes are reflected in the pricing policy draft provided in your materials. We have also included customer safeguards to protect against large variances to mitigate the impact of extreme circumstances. The proposal is to limit the fuel charge increase to 20% month over month, then collect the under recovery over a period of time. We surveyed other large public power utilities on their fuel expense recovery methods, and while the frequency of adjustments varied, the majority did not have a fuel stabilization fund. We will continue to focus on customer impact and communication prior to implementing in December. We are asking for action on approval for the recommended edits to the pricing policy, and I am available for any questions.
Questions of Julie? Julie, you say that the proposed thing includes safeguards to protect customers from extreme weather events, and we're all remembering Texas last winter.
Yes, sir.
How do we do that? How do we protect them?
So as the edits are proposed, we would limit the month-over-month increase in that fuel charge to no more than 20%. And if our fuel expenses exceed what we recover, we have the authority to then recover that over a period of time. So if a weather event like that occurred, we would pass it through more gradually than just the next month to protect that giant pass-through of costs.
Thank you.
That's the protection inside the policy. The broader protection is that we have policies, procedures in place that purchase fuel and hedge fuel ahead of time to keep our cost managed, so that we don't have those same types of large swings that they saw in Texas. But that was an extreme event and could happen. And so this is the secondary protection for our customers.
What percent do we have hedged?
As I was explaining that, I realized that was probably going to be your next question. And do you have that number?
So we have about a little over 2/3 of our natural gas hedged out through FY '22. Our coal, we have put in place contracts to purchase that through calendar year '22. So we've got those prices locked in. We're looking at right now, Joe and I are working on fixing in, getting the hedges in place for the rest of the natural gas for FY '22. So, we are waiting to get pricing on petcoke as well. So a good deal of it. And we're working to get the rest of it wrapped up.
And prices are dropping now.
Yesterday they went up, tomorrow they may go down, but we are down off the peaks a little bit. Yes, sir. And going out longer term, like Joe says, the price is much less than like natural gas got up to around $6, going out, we can go ahead and lock it in the $3 range. So.
Right.
And what happens to the stabilization fund? It gets transferred to something else or just dissolves, or?
So since we set the price at $30.50 October 1, that is under what we are spending right now. So we will actually spend all of the stabilization fund by December. It will be drawn down to zero.
And we said it at the Finance and Audit Committee, but I think it's really important that we're implementing a new policy and then suddenly the rates are going to go up. And it begs the question of why did we implement the new policy? If we had stayed with the old policy, our rates would have gone up more.
Right.
So this is helpful to our customers.
And I'll say it again, this was the intent when the fuel adjustment clause was put in place. The intent was that it would be adjusted on a more frequent basis than we had been actually doing.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Is this the 10th time you've given this presentation?
It feels that way, sir.
Action required.
Yes.
I was going to say, I move to approve the new pricing policy revisions.
Okay, is there a second? Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to our plant Vogel deep dive. Jody?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry to speaking from the table behind. I've passed the torch to Regina, but
You just can't.
Habits.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the board members. Jody Brooks. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer, and that's the hat I'm wearing today. But I'm primarily wearing a historian hat. And I've got Joe Arfano, the Vice President of Financial Services, with me, and he's going to help on the finance side of things. We did a real deep dive with General DeSalvo and the management team a few weeks ago. Gosh, it's been almost 2 months ago now. And things have changed even since that time when we gave that presentation, some of the announcements that occurred last week on Plant Vogtle. But I want to talk a little bit more about the history of the project and about Plant Vogtle, the ownership interest. And again, I want this to be conversational. I don't want to just be presenting to you the history and you know, talking. If you got questions along the way, this is for your benefit to understand where we've been and where we're going with Plant Vogtle. I know with the board members that came on, they were asking, you know, how in the world did we get here from a 2008 purchase power agreement without any cap on the cost and without any real voice in the process. And so I want to talk through from 2008 and kind of where we have been. And in my review, I've gone back and looked at board packages, ADRs, recreated history in the presentation I gave to General DeSalvo and others. And that most of those materials are in your packages, but there's 2 slides for this presentation we're going to talk through. We can all be Monday morning quarterbacks, right? The game last night, I don't know how many people stayed up and watched the game, but the result is the result. And the board, the information that was presented to the board in 2008, it was the right decision at that time. We've talked about natural gas prices today. From a pendulum swing perspective, natural gas prices were going sky high. It was pre-fracking. So the idea that the carbon emissions issues, all the carbon rules that were coming down the pike. The board studied, staff studied, and again, I've looked at all the presentations that was presented to the board in 2007, 2008 timeframe. That predated me. I didn't come to work with JEA until 2014, but I had gone back and looked through the history of this project and the decision that was made at that time to get into the nuclear power industry and what the best choices at the time was, and Plant Vogtle was the right choice at that time. And there was a provision in there, they call it a hell or high water provision. Yeah, either you take and pay, there's no ability to put in a cap in the contract. And there was no ability from a timing perspective. This energy was supposed to be delivered to JEA in 2016 and 2017 timeframe. And now we just heard just this past week that it slid another quarter. That Unit 3 is not to come online until
September 22.
And as of July, when I gave the presentation, I believe in August, they had just announced that it was going to be a quarter before then. So every quarter we slide, what does that really mean? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're still studying the implications of that. And we're going to come and give a presentation to the board every month. And until this thing comes operational, even after it's operational, what that means to the portfolio from a fuel mix perspective.
Do we know what the cost per kilowatt hour is going to be from Vogtle? All in? We don't really. We can estimate and get some idea, but Georgia Power, there's a non-disclosure agreement on the specific costs that they have. There's certain things that's been disclosed to us, and we can kind of back in a little bit to that number. And Joe, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I'd prefer to do it privately after the meeting since we are under NDAs.
Okay.
And we've stated that the cost is approximately 40% higher than what the board had approved back in 2008. So we can give you a number that's in the current model that's been provided by MEAG.
We can also give you our estimated cost, and we can give you the number of megawatt hours.
And it sounds like we're not being forthright on some of this stuff, but again, from a disclosure perspective, there's certain things we can and cannot say in a public forum about the transaction. And we're just an off-taker of the power. Our power purchase agreement, we are not an owner. These are the 4 owners in the project, Georgia Power, Oglethorpe, MEAG, and Dalton. You'll see the percentages of ownership of the project. And these are the same 4 owners that built Unit 1 and 2. You'll go to the next Sorry, Marty.
No, sorry, Jay. I'm not the one that bought that stuff.
So on this slide, it talks about unit 1 and 2, and I'm not sure if folks realize that the same owners had built and have been operating units 1 and 2 at Plant Vogel pretty successfully since the 1980s. It began construction in 1974 and became operational unit 1 in 87 and then unit 2 in 89. You can see the construction timeline there is actually very similar to 3 and 4 when you start really looking at the construction of the project. In 2006, those same owners, those same 4 owners, same percentage ownership, decided to expand Plant Vogel to units 3 and 4. 3 and 4 using new technology, the AP1000. Another project was being built over in China using the same newer technology, supposed to be more efficient, better, bigger, better for 3 and 4. Westinghouse, household name, right? Toshiba, household names. In 2008, when you go back and look at the ADRs and the decisions that were made at that time, that was a big factor for JEA to agree to the MEAG purchase power agreement because of who the players on the market were. Georgia Southern, from an operational perspective, had, again, the history of 1 and 2 really sold the idea that this was going to be a successful project for 3 and 4. I kind of advanced a little bit on the timeline, but in 2017, when Westinghouse declared bankruptcy, that was really problematic. At that time, there had started to be some issues from a construction and delays perspective already. The construction that had started. When Westinghouse declares bankruptcy, before that, it was a fixed price contract. That was another key factor with JEA entering into the MEAG purchase power agreement. Even though there wasn't a cap on our contract, there was a fixed price on the EPC, the engineer and procurement construct contract with Westinghouse and Shaw at the time. That fixed price contract, there were a couple of change orders along the way, but that fixed contract, even though we were not party to it, at least we could point to that saying we think we got it's capped. And Bechtel did not accept the fixed price contract when it got in the position as the contractor for the property. Now it's a cost plus contract. So that's a big issue for us, for JEA, when that becomes when it's no longer a fixed price contract. And we have no idea what it's going to cost us. So JEA at the time, after the 2017 bankruptcy declaration, we started talking to MEAG. We've got to figure out a better way, a better adjustment for this contract. And we didn't get anywhere. There was a campaign of billboards. I don't know if you remember that from the media, about trying to stop the project. At that time, natural gas prices, fracking had come aboard, natural gas prices went like this. The carbon rules were put on halt from all the decisions that were made in 2008. That pendulum started swinging the other way. So JEA wanted out of the deal. I mean, we wanted to try to not so much out of the deal, but nuclear energy didn't have the same flair it did in 2008. You about to ask something? And so we tried to influence the no-go decision that happened at the Public Service Commission level in 2018. So the Georgia Public Service Commission, against its own staff's recommendations, agreed to continue with the project. It's the last remaining nuclear power plant that's under construction in the USA. At the time in 2008, I think there were 26 or 28 different projects in the planning stages to be built in the USA, nuclear power plants. At this time, this is the only one I'm aware of that has continued with its construction. Again, from a pricing perspective, from a fuel mix perspective, again, decisions made in 2008, that's 13 years later. Now the pendulum is starting to swing back. You'll see on the timeline litigation, if you want to have one-on-one discussions about what happened. This board, except for Mr. Morales, was here when we settled the litigation matters. We had on the very first virtual shade meetings conducted to talk about through the settlement. And the matter was settled with MEAG, all the litigation issues in August of last year. And I can't believe it's been August, it's over a year ago that we settled that. And now we're trying to work with MEAG as our partner in a 20-year arrangement that we have and really want the facility to get up and running. But we continue to get bad news. And what can we do as just the purchase power arrangement we have with MEAG without any ownership abilities to force any of the construction opportunities to speed up the processes. Again, we're on the sidelines, but we're trying to do things that's not so sideliney. We are, Jay, myself, Laura Dutton, and Admiral Brown all traveled up to MEAG and did a site visit and met with MEAG's general counsel and CEO, 4 or 5 weeks ago, where we said we want better information, more real-time information from MEAG, a seat at the table if possible to some of the ownership meetings, doing everything we can to try to influence getting this thing up and running and operational. You'll notice in the packet of information that the revised schedule, it changed with a press release and filings, an 8K filing last week. And it's the schedule slid another quarter. And so right now, the commercial operation date for Unit 3 is supposed to come on September of 2022, and Unit 4, June of 2023. This week, another group of JEA leadership is going up there, and General DeSalvo is going up this week again for a tour and to meet with some of the staff up at MEAG. And just trying to stay in front is really the best opportunities that we think we have right now, and staying engaged in the discussion on the scheduling and timing and cost. So I talked and I didn't.
I'd add back in 2017, Toshiba, which was Westinghouse's parent, elected to pay a $3.68 billion guarantee. And Westinghouse basically voided the engineering, procurement, and construction contract. So that is just another telltale sign that the project was in trouble from a cost standpoint. So the co-owners brought in Bechtel as the new EPC contractor under a cost plus arrangement, and that's really given us little confidence that the project can be complete when they say it will. And we're looking at these September 22 and June 23 dates, and I can't tell you with any confidence that they're going to make those. I mean, we're hopeful, but it's been a challenge.
What is the accounting treatment? Obviously, we have no debt since we're not an owner, but we do have purchase power agreement. And explain, especially to Rick, how that works with our.
It's a great question. Under GASB, the Government Accounting Standards Board, power purchase agreements are not capitalized onto the balance sheet. So we have about 4 pages of footnote disclosure about the arrangements, but it's not considered capital. So it's not an on-balance sheet. The rating agencies, as a rule of thumb, tend to take half the debt that's been issued and impute it onto our balance sheet when they calculate a fixed charge coverage. So we really pivoted in finance from debt service coverage, which in the electric system's going to be north of 3 times, very solid AA, to fixed charge. And we're challenged from a fixed charge coverage standpoint, but off balance sheet financing. But the rating agencies slap it on.
Impute it.
They impute the debt, correct.
But if it is real, bottom line. And
Absolutely. Out of this total 3 billion plus, MEAG Power has issued approximately 2.85 billion to date, including an offering in July. And we are fully participating with these debt offerings. We issue opinions and update disclosure in the official statements for MEAG. So that was not the case during the litigation. They did a financing without our knowledge.
They did a financing without our knowledge because of the situation that
because of the situation we were in.
The relationship is mended, significantly mended.
And again, they're our partner in this. I mean, we need to make sure that we continue with that relationship, and we have mended those fences, and we're moving forward. That again, I think it's in everybody's interest that we get the power generating from this nuclear facility sooner rather than later. And what can JEA, as the off-taker of this energy, do to try to make this a successful project? We don't necessarily want to be a thorn in MEAC's side, but we also want them to know that we are highly engaged in this project to make sure we're doing everything for our customers to get this energy, because we're going to need it. The other issue in 2008 was the necessity from a growth perspective, and zero carbon nuclear power is going to look good in our fuel mix and our portfolio. And so I think it's in everybody's best interest that we move forward with a partnering mentality with MEAG, and that we do whatever we can. Again, we're a little bit on the sidelines, but everything that we can possibly do. This board did engage Roland Berger, a third party that came and presented to the board a few months ago about what they witnessed and what they saw. And they were pretty much on point on the schedule. So hopefully that schedule will at some point get complete and the project move forward, and we get the energy that we need out of it.
It's projected to be about 12% of our energy mix, so it's not insignificant.
And Rick, the deal was set up so that we would take the first 20 years of the production of our percent of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes back to MEAG. So they were thinking about, we don't need the power right away, but we will need it. We felt like we needed it right away. So it was.
So MEAG won't be getting any power out of it for the first 20 years?
Not the Project J.
You get part of it. There's
Some, okay.
But not their full percentage.
Gotcha.
Their ownership,
Years.
not their ownership. Their ownership interest is just under 23%.
Right.
And at some point you'd enjoy going up to see it. I think it's maybe the largest construction project in the United States.
I've toured Turkey Point before.
Yeah.
Many years ago, my brother-in-law worked there. But be interesting.
Cooling tower is, the diameter of it's bigger than a professional baseball field.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
massive.
It is extremely impressive. And I was there in 2016, and then I got to tour again, and there has been progress made. I can assure you there was progress made from those two visits I've had. But you feel very small when you're on the site, because it is a massive undertaking to build a nuclear power plant. It's a big deal. It's just a matter of it. We need to get it done, and get clean energy out of it. And the materials in the back of your book, from a structure perspective, there's a chart in there that's called historical deal structure. That's something to look at and get an understanding of the division and the percentages that everybody owns in the facilities.
I saw it when
Yeah.
So our part of the message, and I wish this wasn't part of the message, but part of the message is on this particular project, we don't have a whole lot. We have as close to zero control over the outcome as is possible. What we owe to our customers and to the board and to all of our employees is to keep you updated on where it stands. And so one of the things that we've talked about in the past, we've been giving updates on what the cost is, and we have taken the disclosures that come from Southern and from MEAG and from others. And we've been generally talking about those dates. We're going to start adding until we can feel more comfortable with the end date to be real. We're going to start adding some time on the back end of that says, hey, if it does stretch out another quarter, so it's scheduled now September of 22. We're concerned about that. If it were to stretch out till December, what would the cost, what would the impact be to us? And then the other piece of that is that a year ago, when we were sitting, the update was that we were going to be online November now.
November 21 and November 22, correct?
So we were going to be online in November of 21. And so as it continued to stretch, the message that we had for you all was it's going out a little bit more, but it's not a lot. It's just a little bit more. Now it's been a lot. It's been a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Now we're into a bigger number. So our jobs as leadership team is to help explain how we approach this, how we deal with this, how we look at the O&M cost, because this number is going to be whatever this number is.
What are we currently doing for that power? Because we were planning on that power.
So that's right. So there's two pieces of this. This is how do we deal with the power? That's part of the fuel cost. The power in the ballpark is $10 to $12 per megawatt hour coming out of nuclear. And our fuel rate is going to average $40 next year. So we're having to make up $30 worth every month that this gets delayed, which passes through to our fuel rate. So we hedge, we watch what we can do. We've got power purchase power agreements that we bring in. And then we have some O&M kind of controls that we need to put in place over the next several years to be able to balance this. That's the part we can control. So it hasn't been disingenuous whenever we said we can't control it. We are where we are. But that was when it was going to be online like really soon. And now every time it stretches out, it impacts us. And so we're having to figure out how to manage that. Roughly $8 million a month of increased what looks like debt service. That's spread out over 20 years. So it's not a very, very large number every time we add to it, except it's already $3.1 billion. So it's a big number that we have to manage. It's not doom and gloom. We're going to get really positive carbon-free emission power whenever it's up and running. And then we'll put all of that into our integrated resource plan that looks out 30 years. 2/3 of the way through that integrated resource plan, we've got to be able to deal with what are we going to do with the 208 megawatts that we will be getting from Plant Vogtle. That's a big deal too. So we're starting to look out, how do we manage O&M today? How do we manage our energy mix in what hopefully is 20 years from now and not 21 years from now? Hopefully we'll be online and start.
But for board member Morales' benefit, I'd just like to reemphasize, since 2016, we've taken several steps to mitigate the costs of this power coming. We shut down and dismantled St. Johns River Power Park. We reached an agreement with FPL on shutting down Shear Unit number 4. And since 2016, we've either retired or defeased approximately $450 million of debt outstanding. And as Burdell commented earlier, we're going to do another 100 to 102 million as soon as we get the deed transferred from FPL. Well, it's a joint deed between FPL and ourselves. We'll pay down another 100 million. So we're taking steps to mitigate this cost with an eye toward that fixed charge coverage that the rating agencies are, that metric in particular.
The response to your direct question about what are we doing about the power now, we're having to do replacement power.
There's buying, yeah.
Buying.
We're having to buy.
A couple things. One, that deep dive that y'all did was great. And I'll just say, it is what it is. And I, I went into that meeting thinking, well, let's guns loaded and all that. Everybody's trying, it is what it is. And then sort of gets to Jay's point on, we don't have leverage, but we sort of do. And I'll just say this, to MEAG's credit, they've given us access to their program management monthly reports, basically. And so that's pretty good. They're opening the kimono a little bit. And tomorrow when we go up there, just a couple of things that I'm very curious with them on. One, just their measures of effectiveness for how they're articulating progress. And in a couple instances, when you read their reports, okay, the rest of the story is for some of their milestones that are called analysis milestones, they're like 3 of 45. I mean, and that's a lot of ground to make up supposedly by these, these September 22 now, which is sort of doubtful. So just ask them. I'm going to ask them. You say you're 93.5% for unit 3. That doesn't mean anything. That last 0.5, that could take out to 5 years for all we know. So, one, instead of over promising and under delivering, we really need more pragmatic assessments. They just might be able to tell me, yeah, noted by, thank you for your visit, but we'll see. I think the other thing too, though, is with the visits that Jay went on and Jody and all that and Rich Brown and these monthly revisits, I think we are sending a good signal that we're interested in this. And regardless of how much leverage or non-leverage we have or don't have, it's important to us. And as Jay and I discussed, 8 million in the long scheme of things, that's a rounding error, but it doesn't matter. Our people, the JEA rank and file, that's a lot of money. Our customers is a lot of money. So we got to show to us that's a lot of money too. And we just need better estimates from them. And really, I think more accurate analysis on where they're headed so we can prepare properly. Have no idea what will result from this or whatever, but I will say at least they are receptive to having us up there tomorrow, which I think is good. And again, I do think it's good they let us have access to their program manager reports. They're very technical. I understand like 1% of them, I think, but we'll just see what happens. But at least if anything, we're sending a strategic message. We're interested, we're following what's going on, we're frustrated, and we just need better accuracy from them on what's realistic with how this effort's developing. So we'll see what happens.
Very appreciative of all of your efforts. Thank you for that.
Well, I haven't delivered anything yet, but
You're on it.
Make a difference.
I think it's going to make a big difference.
so yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. But that was the background is great. And I just say again, now I don't expect any mental energy on what happened in the past is not worth it. It's just how the hell do we go right as best we can in the future on this.
And I think Jay and JEA have done a great job of mending fences. I mean, we
Yeah.
really stuck our finger in their eye. And they've come back and couldn't have been nicer.
Right.
So,
And we've talked about this too. I believe that MEAG is doing all that they can do in where they're sitting. And I appreciate the effort and the place that they're in too. So we're going to continue to have, this is not going to help us to get into a contentious relationship, but we are also going to pay attention. There's a Public Service Commission meeting in Georgia in the next few weeks, and we'll have people present there in an effort to share our interest and concern. We don't plan to speak, plan to listen. And we'll keep on doing that. And thank you for your interest in this. And this is the how we get the best information to you, to the public, to our customers every day. This is a big, impactful thing. Future meetings, as we have discussions, we'll start to translate what a $3 billion number is a big number. And earlier today, we talked about a $2 billion, sorry, I rounded that up, a $2 billion number on the water. And so we keep on talking about these really big numbers. It really comes back to impacting what our customers are having to pay. Some of them, this is the second or third largest bill that they pay every day, and we have to keep that in mind, focus on our customers, and share this information with our employees too, because it's going to put some increased pressure on all of us to do the best job we can to serve people we serve.
And as I recall, we went through something similar with the cost of pet coke when we built the pet coke plant, that by the time it was open, because it takes so long to build these things, by the time it was open, pet coke was 3 or 4 times higher than the numbers that we envisioned it would be when we approved the deal. Am I
So,
directionally correct, Joe, on that?
yes.
Yes.
So regretfully, power plants aren't built in a week or 2.
Nothing is.
Okay, is there anything further? Questions? Thank you, both of you. That's very helpful, and it's a good update. At this point, we'll go to any old or other new business or open discussion. Rick, this is we don't usually do a lot of open discussion, but given the sunshine laws, this is a time when we can bring up things that are bothering you or any of our members and get it out on the floor and do so in an appropriate way. So is there any open discussion, or I don't know of any old or new business? Okay, I have no chair's report, but I do want to propose a resolution of appreciation for Dr. Leon Haley, and I'll read this. I think you all have seen it, but I think it's appropriate for me to read it. Resolution of appreciation and memoriam of Dr. Leon Haley Jr. Whereas Dr. Haley Jr. was appointed to the JEA Board of Directors by Mayor Lenny Curry on April 14th, 2020. And whereas Dr. Haley served with wisdom and enthusiasm as a member of the JEA Governance Committee, Compensation Committee, and CEO Search Committee. Whereas Dr. Haley was an exemplary board member and a consummate professional who worked tirelessly to improve the quality of life for his fellow citizens of Jacksonville, Florida. Whereas Dr. Haley continues to be widely celebrated within the Jacksonville medical community, and his commitment to public service and volunteerism remains evident in light of the seemingly endless devotion of his time and energy. Whereas Dr. Haley will always be adored by family, revered by colleagues, and respected by all those who knew him. Whereas Dr. Haley established an enduring legacy by leaving his profession, his community, and JEA in a remarkably better place. Be it resolved by the JEA Board of Directors that the record reflect JEA's deep appreciation for the invaluable service provided by Dr. Haley to JEA, the medical community, in the city of Jacksonville, Florida. The life and contributions of Dr. Haley are hereby recognized, and sincere sympathy is extended to his family, friends, and colleagues. This resolution be incorporated into the minutes of this meeting, dated 26th day of October, 2021. Would somebody make a motion?
Proud to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Of course not. The next meeting is November 16th, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
They can find the fire hose, huh?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're on the phone. Rescue people are gonna call. Ben Frazier, Carnell Oliver. That wasn't a second. Oh, God, no. Unbelievable. What did you expect? No good details. This thing was going off the rails in a big way, and it got hijacked by a group, and I didn't want to be a part of it. Yes.